The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace gardens as William stood by the window, watching Kate tend to her favorite roses. She moved with the same grace that had captivated him years ago, but something was different now. Her movements were slower, more deliberate, as if each step required conscious effort. The diagnosis had come 3 months ago, delivered in the sterile confines of a private medical suite. The words progressive condition and limited time had hung in the air like a death sentence, forever changing the trajectory of their carefully planned lives. Kate had insisted on maintaining normalcy for as long as possible. She continued her royal duties, attended charity events, and smiled for the cameras with the same radiance that had made her beloved by millions. But William could see the truth behind her composed facade. He noticed how she gripped his arm a little tighter during public appearances, how she paused longer before speaking. Gathering her strength like precious currency she could no longer afford to waste carelessly. The palace staff had been briefed with the utmost discretion. Only a select few knew the full extent of Kate's condition. The official statement spoke of taking time to focus on family, a carefully crafted phrase that revealed nothing while explaining everything to those who needed to know. The press had speculated, of course, but the royal communications team had masterfully deflected attention, creating a protective barrier around the couple's private struggle. Their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, sensed the change in their mother without fully understanding its implications. Kate had chosen her words carefully when explaining that she needed to rest more, that some days would be harder than others. The innocence in their eyes when they asked if Mummy would be okay pierced William's heart in ways he never thought possible. He found himself memorizing these moments, storing them like treasures against the approaching storm. In the quiet hours of evening, when the palace settled into its ancient rhythms, William and Kate would sit together in their private sitting room. They spoke of memories, of dreams they had shared, and of the legacy they wanted to leave behind. Kate's voice, though sometimes weak, carried the same warmth and wisdom that had guided her through years of public service. She spoke of her hopes for their children, of the causes that would continue to need champions, and of the love that had sustained them through every challenge. The couple had begun making subtle preparations, decisions that would never appear in any official capacity, but were necessary nonetheless. Kate had started writing letters to their children for future milestones she might not witness. She worked with palace archivists to ensure her charitable work would continue seamlessly. Every action was taken with the quiet dignity that had defined her public life, but now served as her private strength. Friends noticed the change in William too. The easy laugh that had characterized his younger years appeared less frequently. His shoulders carried a weight that went beyond his royal duties. Yet those closest to him also witnessed something beautiful emerging from this trial. His devotion to Kate deepened into something almost sacred. He became her constant companion, her advocate, and her protector in ways that transcended their public roles as Duke and Duchess. The palace gardens, once simply a beautiful backdrop to their lives, had become Kate's sanctuary. She spent hours there, sometimes alone, sometimes with William walking silently beside her. The roses she had planted years earlier were blooming magnificently, as if nature itself was offering a final glorious display. William often found her there in the early morning light, her face turned toward the sun, absorbing warmth and beauty with an intensity that spoke of someone who understood the preciousness of simple moments. As autumn approached, the couple faced the reality that their time together was measured not in years but in seasons. Each day became a gift to be unwrapped carefully, each conversation a treasure to be preserved. The world continued its relentless pace around them, but within the walls of their private quarters time moved differently. Here love was not just an emotion but a living, breathing entity that filled every silence and illuminated every shadow. The strength Kate displayed in those early months of her illness became legendary among those who witnessed it. She approached each day with a courage that inspired everyone around her. Her smile, though perhaps requiring more effort than before, still possessed the power to light up rooms and touch hearts. She was determined that her legacy would not be defined by illness but by the love, grace, and service that had always guided her life. The first snow of winter arrived earlier than expected, blanketing the palace grounds in pristine white. Kate watched from her bedroom window as the familiar landscape transformed into something magical and new. The sight brought back memories of their first winter together as newlyweds, when they had walked hand in hand through these same gardens, their breath forming clouds in the crisp air as they planned their future. Now, those dreams felt like echoes from another lifetime. Kate's condition had progressed more quickly than the doctors had initially predicted. The strong woman who had once kept pace with William on hiking trails and public walkabouts, now tired after brief conversations. Yet her spirit remained undiminished, burning bright even as her body grew weaker. William had quietly rearranged his schedule to spend more time at home. Official engagements were postponed or reassigned, though always with carefully crafted explanations that protected their privacy. The prince, who had once traveled extensively for royal duties, now rarely left Kate's side for more than a few hours. Staff members noticed how he had developed an almost supernatural awareness of her needs, appearing with a warm blanket before she felt cold, offering his arm before she felt unsteady. Their conversations during this period took on a profound intimacy that even longtime married couples rarely achieve. They spoke about everything and nothing, sharing thoughts that had remained unspoken for years. Kate revealed her deepest fears about leaving William and the children, while William shared his gratitude for every moment they had been given together. These talks often lasted until dawn, two souls connecting in the precious space between sleeping and waking. The children adapted to their mother's changing condition, with the remarkable resilience that children possess. Charlotte became Kate's constant companion during afternoon reading sessions, curling up beside her mother with storybooks and gentle chatter about school and friends. George, sensing his role as the eldest, took on small responsibilities around the house with a maturity that both impressed and worried his parents. Little Louis continued to bring joy and laughter, his innocent energy serving as a reminder of life's continuation even in the face of loss. Kate had always been particular about maintaining her dignity and appearance, and this did not change during her illness. She worked with her dresser each morning to select outfits that made her feel strong and beautiful. When fatigue made elaborate styling impossible, she chose simple, elegant pieces that reflected her innate grace. William often told her she had never looked more beautiful, and the sincerity in his voice made it clear he truly meant every word. The couple began creating new traditions during this time, small rituals that belonged only to them. Each evening, William would read aloud from books they both loved, his voice providing comfort and continuity. They started a journal together, taking turns writing entries about their daily experiences, their hopes, and their love for each other. These pages became a sacred record of their final months together, filled with wisdom and tenderness that would later comfort William in his darkest hours. Friends from their university days began visiting more frequently, though Kate insisted these gatherings remain joyful rather than somber. She refused to let her condition cast a shadow over the relationships that had sustained her throughout her adult life. Laughter still echoed through the palace corridors during these visits, though perhaps softer and more precious than before. Kate's ability to focus on others, asking about their lives and concerns despite her own struggles, demonstrated the selfless nature that had endeared her to the public. The press had begun to sense that something significant was happening behind palace walls. Photographers with telephoto lenses lingered near the gates, hoping to capture images that might reveal the truth. But the royal protection officers and communications team worked tirelessly to preserve the family's privacy during this sacred time. The few official photographs released showed Kate looking serene and dignified, providing just enough public presence to satisfy curiosity while revealing nothing of their private struggle. As winter deepened, Kate's favorite sitting room became the heart of their daily life. A fire burned constantly in the grate, casting dancing shadows on walls lined with family photographs spanning their years together. Here, surrounded by memories and love, Kate continued to plan for her family's future. She worked with advisors to establish charitable foundations that would continue her work with children and families. Every detail was carefully considered, ensuring that her legacy would live on through meaningful action rather than mere remembrance. The depth of William's love revealed itself in countless small gestures during these months. He learned to braid Charlotte's hair when Kate's hands grew too weak. He mastered the bedtime routines that had always been Kate's domain. He became fluent in the language of comfort, knowing exactly when to speak and when silence was what she needed most. Their love, tested by the ultimate trial, emerged stronger and more beautiful than either had thought possible. Spring arrived with an explosion of color that seemed almost defiant against the sadness settling over the palace. The gardens Kate loved so dearly burst into bloom, creating a spectacular display that staff members later described as the most magnificent in decades. Tulips painted the walkways in vibrant reds and yellows, while cherry blossoms created a delicate pink canopy overhead. Kate insisted on spending as much time as possible outdoors, even when it meant William carrying a chair to her favorite spots when walking became too difficult. The contrast between the renewed life in the gardens and Kate's declining strength was not lost on either of them. Yet rather than feeling bitter about this cruel irony, Kate found profound meaning in the cycle of seasons. She spoke often about how beauty could emerge from endings, how new growth required the release of what came before. Her philosophical acceptance of her situation amazed everyone who knew her, though William sometimes glimpsed the fear she worked so hard to hide. During these spring days, Kate began what she called her blessing rounds, private meetings with people who had been important in her life. She met with her former teachers, thanking them for shaping her character. She spent afternoons with staff members who had served the family faithfully, expressing gratitude for their loyalty and discretion. Each conversation was a gift, both given and received, creating connections that transcended her royal title and touched the essence of who she was as a human being. The children had grown more perceptive about their mother's condition, asking questions that revealed their developing understanding of loss and permanence. Kate answered with age-appropriate honesty, helping them process emotions they were too young to fully comprehend. She created memory boxes for each child, filling them with letters, photographs, and small mementos that would help them remember her love in years to come. These sessions often left Kate exhausted but fulfilled, knowing she was giving her children tools for healing. William found himself documenting everything with an urgency he had never felt before. He took photographs constantly, capturing Kate's expressions, her gestures, the way sunlight fell across her face during their garden walks. He recorded her voice reading bedtime stories, her laughter during family game nights, even her quiet humming while she worked on correspondence. These recordings would become precious beyond measure in the months and years that followed. The palace staff had developed an almost reverential attitude toward Kate during this period. Servants who had worked there for decades spoke of her with a mixture of love and awe that was unprecedented in their experience. She remembered everyone's names, asked about their families, and treated each person with genuine respect and warmth. Her grace under pressure had transformed from a professional skill into something approaching saintliness in the eyes of those who witnessed it. Daily medical appointments became a carefully orchestrated ballet of discretion and care. A specialized team of doctors visited the palace, rather than requiring Kate to travel to hospitals where her condition might become public knowledge. These professionals, bound by oath and personal devotion, provided care that went beyond medical treatment to encompass emotional and spiritual support for the entire family. They marveled at Kate's courage and William's unwavering dedication, often commenting privately that they had never witnessed such a profound example of love in action. Kate's relationship with her own family deepened during this time as well. Her parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, became regular fixtures at the palace, providing support that was both practical and emotional. Her siblings, Pippa and James, helped care for the children and created joyful diversions that kept family life as normal as possible. These gatherings often felt like celebrations rather than vigils, as Kate insisted on focusing on the love that surrounded her rather than the loss that approached. The spring weather allowed for several memorable outdoor events that would be treasured forever by those who participated. A private picnic in the palace gardens featured all three children playing while William and Kate watched from a blanket spread under an ancient oak tree. The simplicity of the moment, sandwiches, lemonade, and laughter, created a perfect memory that would sustain William through the darkest days ahead. Kate's joy in watching her children play seemed to give her strength that medicine could not provide. As the weeks passed, Kate began to speak more openly about her approaching death, not with morbid fascination but with the practical wisdom of someone preparing for a journey. She updated her will, wrote final letters to friends around the world, and made specific requests about her funeral arrangements. She wanted the service to be a celebration of life rather than a mourning of death, filled with music she loved and readings that reflected her faith and values. The bond between William and Kate during this period transcended everything they had experienced before. They communicated often without words, understanding each other's needs through glances and gestures perfected over years of partnership. William's devotion took on an almost spiritual quality, as if he could sustain Kate's life through the sheer force of his love. She drew strength from his presence, finding courage in his unwavering faith that their love would endure beyond physical separation. Their last spring together became a masterpiece of mindful living. Each day approached with intention and gratitude. They created a legacy of love that would inspire everyone who witnessed it, proving that even in the face of ultimate loss, the human spirit could soar to heights of beauty and grace that touched the divine. The early summer heat was unusually intense, but Kate insisted on maintaining her daily routine of sitting in the garden pavilion William had constructed especially for her. Surrounded by climbing roses and jasmine, she could watch the children play on the lawn while remaining close to the house when fatigue overcame her. The pavilion had become her sanctuary, a place where she felt most connected to the natural world that had always given her peace. William had learned to read the subtle signs that indicated Kate's energy levels throughout the day. He knew that mornings were generally her strongest time, when they could have meaningful conversations about the future and the children's needs. Afternoons brought fatigue that she fought valiantly, often dozing in her chair while he read nearby. Evenings were unpredictable, sometimes bringing unexpected bursts of clarity and connection, other times requiring gentle assistance with the most basic tasks. The children had developed their own ways of coping with their mother's changing condition. George had become protective of Kate's quiet time, gently redirecting his younger siblings when they became too boisterous. Charlotte appointed herself as Kate's personal assistant, bringing pillows, blankets, and cups of tea with endearing seriousness. Louis, still too young to fully understand what was happening, continued to climb into Kate's lap for stories and cuddles, his innocent affection providing healing that no medicine could match. Kate's correspondence during this period revealed the depth of her character and the breadth of her influence. Letters arrived daily from around the world, from heads of state and ordinary citizens whose lives she had touched through her charitable work. She insisted on personally responding to as many as possible, though her handwriting had become shakier and her stamina for writing limited. Each letter was crafted with care, offering encouragement and expressing gratitude for the sender's kindness. The palace had become a place of pilgrimage for those who had worked closely with Kate over the years. Charity leaders, patronage representatives, and community activists made quiet visits to express their appreciation for her service and to ensure her projects would continue in her absence. These meetings often moved Kate to tears, not from sadness but from overwhelming gratitude for the meaningful work she had been able to accomplish during her years as a royal. William had begun the difficult process of preparing for his future as a single father while maintaining his royal duties. Palace advisors worked discreetly to restructure his responsibilities, ensuring he could prioritize his children's needs in the difficult months ahead. The prospect of navigating royal life without Kate's wisdom and support felt overwhelming, but he drew strength from her confidence in his abilities and her detailed guidance about the children's individual needs. Medical care had become a round-the-clock necessity, though Kate remained determined to maintain her dignity and independence for as long as possible. A dedicated nursing staff provided support while remaining as unobtrusive as possible, understanding that this family valued privacy and normalcy above all else. The head nurse, a compassionate woman named Margaret who had cared for many terminally ill patients, often remarked that she had never witnessed such grace under impossible circumstances. Kate's relationship with William's family had deepened significantly during her illness. King Charles visited regularly, bringing books and engaging in philosophical discussions about duty, service, and legacy. These conversations had helped Kate process her own role in royal history and find peace with the contributions she had made. Queen Camilla provided practical support and emotional understanding that came from her own experience of marrying into the royal family and facing public scrutiny. The summer garden, parties that had always been Kate's favorite royal events, took on new meaning during her final season. Though she could no longer stand for hours meeting guests, special arrangements allowed her to participate from a seated position in the garden pavilion. Visitors were deeply moved by her continued warmth and interest in their lives, many commenting later that meeting her had been a profound and inspiring experience that changed their perspective on courage and grace. As Kate's physical strength continued to decline, her spiritual strength seemed to grow stronger. She spoke frequently about feeling surrounded by love, not just from William and the children but from something larger and more eternal. Her faith, always important to her, became a source of comfort that sustained her through the darkest moments. She found particular solace in prayers and readings that emphasized love's eternal nature and the continuation of bonds beyond physical existence. Photography became increasingly important to the family during this period. William hired a discreet photographer to document their daily life, creating a visual record of Kate's final months that the children could treasure in adulthood. These images captured not just faces and events, but the essence of their love story, quiet moments of connection, shared laughter, and the unmistakable presence of deep, enduring love that transcended physical limitations. The palace gardens, always beautiful, seemed to respond to Kate's presence with extraordinary abundance. Flowers bloomed longer and more vibrantly than usual. Birds gathered near the pavilion as if drawn by her peaceful energy, and the ancient trees provided shade and shelter that felt almost protective. Staff members often commented on the sense of sacred space that surrounded Kate during her garden hours, as if nature itself was offering its final tribute to someone who had loved it so completely. The late summer days brought a bittersweet awareness that time was becoming increasingly precious. Kate's doctors had gently indicated that autumn might not arrive for her, though she faced this news with the same quiet courage that had characterized her entire journey. William found himself treasuring every conversation, every shared glance, every moment of Kate's laughter, as if collecting jewels against the approaching darkness. Kate had begun what she called her completion work, ensuring that every loose thread in her life was properly tied. She spent hours with her private secretary organizing her personal papers and correspondence. Important documents were labeled and filed according to her specific instructions, creating a clear record for William to follow in the future. Her jewelry collection was carefully cataloged with notes about which pieces should go to Charlotte when she came of age, and which items held special memories that she wanted preserved for future generations. The children, sensing the increasing urgency in the household atmosphere, had begun spending almost all their time close to their mother. Summer holiday plans were quietly canceled in favor of staying home where Kate felt most comfortable. The palace became a cocoon of family life, with elaborate picnics spread on bedroom floors when Kate was too weak to venture outside, and movie marathons that stretched late into the night when sleep eluded them all. William's transformation during this period was remarkable to witness. The prince, who had once relied on Kate for emotional guidance and social navigation, had developed a strength and wisdom that surprised even him. He managed the children's emotional needs with newfound skill, maintaining their routines while being honest about their mother's condition. His love for Kate had evolved from romantic passion into something approaching reverence, a devotion so pure it seemed to transform everything it touched. The palace staff had become an extended family during these final weeks. Long-serving employees who had maintained professional distance for years now shared tears and embraces with the family they had served. Kate made a point of thanking each person individually for their service, often sharing specific memories that showed how much attention she had paid to their lives and contributions. These conversations left lasting impressions on people who had never expected such personal recognition from their royal employers. Kate's final charitable initiative was the establishment of a foundation focused on supporting families facing terminal illness. Working with lawyers and financial advisors from her bedside, she created an organization that would provide both practical assistance and emotional support to other families, walking the path she and William were traveling. The foundation's charter emphasized the importance of dignity, love, and hope in the face of loss, principles that had guided her own journey. Sleep had become increasingly elusive for Kate, but these wakeful hours were often filled with profound conversations with William. They talked about their wedding day, their first home together, the births of their children, and countless small moments that had woven the fabric of their shared life. William's voice became her anchor during these nighttime hours, reading poetry, sharing memories, or simply talking about his love for her until she drifted into peaceful rest. The couple's spiritual journey had deepened significantly as Kate's condition progressed. Regular visits from their chaplain provided comfort and guidance, but Kate found equal solace in quiet meditation and prayer. She spoke often about feeling connected to something larger than herself, a sense of peace that came from knowing her love would continue even after her physical presence ended. This spiritual strength became a source of comfort for William as well, helping him find meaning in their suffering. Kate's appetite had diminished significantly, but she continued to find joy in the ritual of family meals. Even when she could only manage a few bites, she insisted on joining William and the children at the dinner table, asking about their days and sharing in their conversations. These meals became sacred time, filled with laughter and connection that nourished their souls even when Kate's body could no longer process much nourishment. The bedroom where Kate spent increasing amounts of time had been transformed into a beautiful sanctuary. Fresh flowers arrived daily from the palace gardens, filling the space with color and fragrance. Family photographs covered every surface, creating a visual history of their love story. William had installed speakers that played Kate's favorite music softly throughout the day, creating an atmosphere of peace and beauty that reflected her spirit. As August drew to a close, Kate began making her final requests and sharing her deepest thoughts about the future. She asked William to promise that he would find happiness again someday, though not too soon. She wanted him to remember their love with joy rather than sorrow, to celebrate their time together rather than mourn its brevity. These conversations required tremendous courage from both of them, but they faced these difficult topics with the same honesty that had always characterized their relationship. The night nurses who cared for Kate during these final weeks often spoke of the extraordinary love they witnessed. William rarely left Kate's side, sleeping in a chair beside her bed and waking at her slightest movement. Their connection seemed to transcend physical limitations, communicating through touch and shared glances when words became too difficult. The depth of their bond created an atmosphere of such profound love that even experienced medical professionals found themselves moved to tears by what they witnessed. September arrived with an unexpected warmth that seemed like a gift from nature itself. Kate had defied medical predictions by living to see the season change, though everyone understood that her time was now measured in days rather than weeks. The early autumn light streaming through her bedroom windows cast everything in a golden glow that seemed almost ethereal, as if the world itself was preparing to say goodbye to someone truly special. Kate's final days were marked by an extraordinary sense of peace that seemed to emanate from her very being. Despite her physical weakness, she radiated a calmness that touched everyone who entered her presence. Her voice had become barely above a whisper, but her words carried more weight and meaning than they ever had before. Each sentence was carefully chosen, each sentiment expressed with the precision of someone who understood that words were now precious commodities. William had arranged for each child to have private time with their mother, creating space for conversations that would sustain them throughout their lives. George, now old enough to understand the permanence of what was happening, asked his mother about courage and how to be strong when life became difficult. Kate's response, delivered with tremendous effort but infinite love, would become words he would carry with him forever. Advice about finding strength in love, kindness, and service to others. Charlotte's time with Kate was filled with whispered secrets and shared dreams about the future. Kate told her daughter about the importance of using her voice to help others, about standing up for what was right, and about never forgetting the power of gentleness in a sometimes harsh world. They looked through photograph albums together, Kate sharing stories about her own childhood and the dreams she had once harbored for her daughter's future. Little Louis, still too young to fully comprehend what goodbye meant, simply wanted to be close to his mother. Kate held him against her chest, humming the lullabies she had sung since his birth, creating final memories that would live in his heart, even if his conscious mind couldn't retain them. These moments were perhaps the most heartbreaking for William to witness, knowing that Louis would grow up with only fragments of memory to sustain his connection to his mother. The palace had become a place of pilgrimage as news of Kate's condition began to leak despite the family's efforts at privacy. Flowers, cards, and gifts arrived by the thousands from people around the world who had been touched by Kate's grace and service. The outpouring of love was both overwhelming and comforting, providing tangible evidence of the impact she had made during her years of public service. Kate's own family had essentially moved into the palace during these final days, creating a cocoon of love and support that sustained everyone through the most difficult hours. Her mother, Carol, had become Kate's primary caregiver, performing intimate tasks with the same love she had shown when Kate was a child. Her father, Michael, spent hours reading aloud from books they had shared throughout Kate's life, his voice providing comfort and continuity when words became too difficult for Kate to manage. The medical team had shifted their focus from treatment to comfort, ensuring that Kate's final days would be as peaceful and pain-free as possible. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who had become not just Kate's physician but a trusted friend, marveled at her patient's continued concern for others even as her own strength ebbed away. Kate asked constantly about William's well-being, worried that he was not taking care of himself in his dedication to caring for her. William had begun the heartbreaking process of saying his own goodbye to the woman who had been his partner, his anchor and his greatest love. They spent long hours together in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined, communicating through touch what words could no longer adequately express. William shared his fears about raising their children alone, about maintaining Kate's charitable legacy, about finding meaning in a world without her presence. Kate's response to these concerns revealed the depth of her wisdom and the strength of her character, even in her final moments. She reminded William of his own capabilities, of the love that surrounded their children, and of the community of support that would help him navigate the difficult path ahead. She made him promise to find joy in small moments, to celebrate their love rather than mourn it, and to remember that death could not diminish what they had shared together. The final conversations between Kate and William touched on every aspect of their relationship, from their early days at university to their royal wedding, from the births of their children to the charitable work they had undertaken together. They spoke about dreams fulfilled and opportunities missed, about laughter shared and tears overcome together. These conversations created a complete picture of their love story, providing William with a treasury of memories that would sustain him in the years ahead. As Kate's breathing became more labored and her periods of consciousness grew shorter, the family gathered around her bed in a circle of love that seemed to create its own sacred space. The children sat quietly beside their mother, somehow understanding the solemnity of the moment despite their young ages. William held Kate's hand, whispering words of love and gratitude that only she could hear, creating a final bridge of connection between their hearts that transcended the approaching silence. The morning of September 15th dawned with an unusual clarity, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Kate had awakened before sunrise, surprising everyone with a moment of alertness that had been absent for several days. She asked William to open the windows, wanting to feel the fresh autumn air and hear the birds singing in the garden she had loved so dearly. Her voice, though weak, carried a peacefulness that seemed to comfort everyone present. William sat beside Kate's bed, their hands intertwined as they had been countless times throughout their marriage. The room was filled with the soft presence of family members who had gathered to share these final moments. The children, sensing the gravity of the situation with the intuitive wisdom that children possess, sat quietly nearby, their young faces reflecting a mixture of love and confusion that would stay with William forever. Kate's breathing had become increasingly shallow throughout the morning, but her eyes remained bright with the intelligence and warmth that had captivated William from their first meeting at university. She looked at each family member in turn, her gaze conveying messages of love that transcended words. When her eyes met William's, the connection between them seemed to illuminate the entire room, a testament to a love that had sustained them through every challenge life had presented. The palace chaplain had arrived earlier that morning, offering prayers and comfort to the family. Kate had requested her favorite psalm, and the gentle words about walking through valleys and finding comfort seemed particularly fitting for this moment of transition. Her faith, which had sustained her throughout the illness, provided a sense of continuity and hope that helped everyone present find meaning in what was happening. As the morning progressed, Kate's moments of consciousness became briefer, but no less meaningful. She whispered final words to each child, blessings and expressions of love that would echo in their hearts throughout their lives. To William, she repeated the promise she had made on their wedding day, that their love would endure through all of life's seasons, including the winter that was now approaching. The medical team remained present but unobtrusive, ensuring Kate's comfort while respecting the sacred nature of these final hours. Dr. Mitchell had tears in her eyes as she witnessed the profound love that filled the room. She later said that in 30 years of practicing medicine, she had never seen such a beautiful example of how love could transform even the most difficult circumstances into something approaching grace. Kate's parents sat close to their daughter, their own grief temporarily set aside as they focused entirely on providing comfort and support. Carol held Kate's other hand while Michael quietly shared memories of Kate's childhood, painting word pictures of the spirited little girl who had grown into such an extraordinary woman. These stories seemed to bring Kate comfort, occasionally eliciting the faintest smile despite her weakened condition. As afternoon arrived, Kate's breathing became increasingly peaceful, as if she was simply drifting toward sleep. William never left her side, whispering stories of their life together, reminding her of moments of joy and laughter they had shared. He told her about his plans for their children's futures, seeking her guidance even in these final moments and receiving it through the gentle pressure of her hand in his. The children, guided by their grandparents, were able to say their final goodbyes in a way that honored both Kate's dignity and their need for closure. Each child placed a small flower from the palace garden on Kate's bedside table, creating a little bouquet that carried the essence of the place she had loved most. Their innocence and love seemed to create a protective bubble around the entire scene, transforming what could have been a moment of pure sorrow into something infused with beauty and meaning. As the sun began to set through the bedroom windows, Kate's breathing became even more gentle, synchronized with the rhythm of William's whispered words of love. The room fell into a profound silence, broken only by the soft sounds of nature from the garden outside. In this moment of perfect peace, surrounded by everyone she loved most in the world, Kate simply let go, her final breath as gentle as a sigh of contentment. The silence that followed was not empty but full, charged with the presence of a love so powerful that it seemed to transcend the physical boundaries of the room. William continued to hold Kate's hand, speaking quietly to her as if she could still hear him, perhaps understanding on some level that love truly does continue beyond the boundaries of life and death. The family remained together in this sacred space for some time, allowing the reality of their loss to settle, while also celebrating the magnificent life they had been privileged to share. In the weeks that followed, the world would mourn the loss of a beloved princess, but for William and their children, the grief was tempered by gratitude for having experienced such extraordinary love. Kate's funeral became a celebration of a life lived with grace, service, and devotion to others. Millions around the world watched as her family honored her legacy while beginning their own journey of healing and remembrance. The palace gardens where Kate had found such peace would become a place of pilgrimage for William and the children, a space where they could feel close to her memory and draw strength from the love she had planted there. Her legacy lived on not just in the charitable organizations she had supported, but in the example of grace and courage she had provided for everyone who had been touched by her life. The quiet goodbye that had moved millions to tears ultimately became a testament to the power of love, to transform even loss into something beautiful and eternal.